The following presentation was recorded live at the Richmond Marriott in Richmond, Virginia for the 29th Annual International Association of Square Dance Callers Convention. This is tape number 26, Partners CPR.
This is the 10:45 session of Caller Lab. I'm Bev Sutter, the Partners Chairman. And in this session, we're going to be introduced to CPR. Because of this being more visual as well as being heard, we're going to tape it, but we suggest that anybody listening to the tape, please go to American Red Cross and get the instructions there as well as see it. This isn't something you want to do just by hearing what's being done, because a lot of it's going to be visual. And for the people here, we also recommend that you get certified through American Red Cross or American Heart Association. So, this is, I'm sorry? And Canadian Red Cross, yes, our international friends. This is my husband, Dave Sutter. He's been from 76 until whenever he was EMT, which is emergency medical technician. At that time, they had 3 levels, and he was up to the 3rd one, and after that, it was paramedic. But with 4 children and full-time job and square dancing, something had to give, and the fire department went on, by the way. But he still teaches CPR and takes it from American Red Cross and teaches it at work. So, my husband, Dave Sutter, and we'll go from there.
Good morning. Just a little bit more on the training I've received. Like Bev said, I was on the volunteer fire department for 13 years. And 10 of those 13 years, I was an EMT on the ambulance service. It was a small town, so we didn't do a lot of ambulance runs and have a lot of fire calls, but being there 13 years, it gave me a lot of experience, which has really helped as far as me being an instructor for Red Cross. I've been teaching for the Red Cross First Aid and CPR for 17 years. I've done CPR myself about a half a dozen times. Sorry to say I never saved anybody. Problem is, by the time they call an ambulance and we get up to the fire station, get in the ambulance, get to the scene, you're talking 10, 20 minutes sometimes. And if nobody's doing anything, what chances does the poor victim have? How long do you have before you start having brain death? Anybody know? Well, 4 to 6, they say, okay? And so that doesn't give you a lot of time. So if you figure that somebody's laying there 4 or 5 minutes and then you show up, your chances are pretty slim. And that's what we've seen a lot. Times have changed. Things have improved. So things have gotten better over the years. But that's the way it used to be when I was on the department. But we're not just going to talk about CPR here today. We're going to talk about emergency incidents at dances. How many of you have ever seen a medical emergency at a dance? Okay, about half of you. And I've seen them myself. I've seen heart attacks. I've seen broken wrist. I've seen, she broke her wrist. I've seen a guy cold cock his wife accidentally. We were doing a one-nighter, and unfortunately they were drinking beer all day. And they were really an enthusiastic group. I mean, we must have had, about 10 squares, wasn't it? And they were having a ball, and he just got into it, and somehow he swung around, and he met his wife right in the jaw, and down she went.
They were doing a grand square, and all of a sudden he goes, "Where did she go?" Bam! Right with the back of his hand, she was on the cement.
So incidents do happen at dances. Fortunately, they don't happen a lot, but they do happen. How many of you have taken a CPR course? Okay, there's about 4 or 5 of you. How many people we have in here? Long time ago. Okay. But like Bev said there at the beginning, we're not going to certify you as doing CPR. We can't do that. You have to take it's usually about a 3 to 4 hour course through the American Heart Association or the Red Cross.
And in this state, it's $60 a piece. I didn't think y'all wanted to pay that. But if you go back to your own homes and cities, you may get a better deal learning how to do this from your city organization, your American Cross that's in your town.
But getting back to the floor, square dance floor, do we all know what the symbol is if we have an incident that happens in our square? What should we do? Right. Everybody joins hands, backs up, raise your hands up. And what that does is let the caller know there's an incident. Now, it's not a big deal if you only have 3 or 4 squares. I mean, any caller half worth of salt is going to see that. But you get into conventions where you talking about 30, 40, 50 squares out there, it's going to be very difficult for a caller to see that until he sees a commotion going on. It might be a minute or 2 down the line. So if anything happens, what they suggest is back up, raise your hands, and right away the caller will see you have a problem. What should the caller do then? Right? What he should do is announce, stop the music, of course, and that's going to let everybody know that there's a problem, and ask everybody to clear the floor, back off, give the people room, okay? And then another important thing for the caller to do is make sure that somebody calls an ambulance, okay? Even if it's not that critical, the guy comes, say he just passed out, okay? Being on the ambulance side of it, it never bothered me to turn around and go back and put the ambulance in the garage, even if it was 2 in the morning, okay? Because that was just a quickie for us, get up, drive. Well, they don't need us to turn around and go back. But if you do need them, the earlier that ambulance can get there, the better off they're going to be, okay? So the caller would stop the music, announce for everybody to clear the hall. They don't really have to leave the hall, but they have to clear the floor and give the people some room and time to deal with whatever they have to deal with. But in teaching first aid, one of the things that they stress is check, call, care. Okay? First you check the victim, see what the problem is, call 911. How many of you have ever called 911? Right? Maybe 3 or 4 people out of, would you say 20? 3 or 4 people. If you ever call 911, they're going to ask a lot of questions. They're going to ask where you are, where your name, what the problem is, what are you doing for the victim, things like that. So it's important that you have as much information as you can possibly get when you call the ambulance. Now, it's not always possible in every instance, okay? Maybe you just say, I don't know, the guy is down, we don't know what his problem is, please get the ambulance, okay? Another big question they usually ask on 911, are they conscious or are they breathing? The more information you can give the 911 operator, the more prepared the ambulance crew is going to be when they get there. They can say, okay, we've got a person down not breathing, we're going to need the oxygen, we're going to need the ambu bag, we're going to need to do this and do that. And they can get things ready in their mind before they even get there, which is going to help that victim a lot more at the scene. Another important thing about calling 911, you never want to hang up first. You make sure that 911 operator gets all the questions and answers that she wants. And then she will tell you when to hang up, okay? There have been a lot of times, it's not so bad now, but maybe 10 years ago before they had caller ID, people were excited. I mean, if you have a loved one down not breathing, you're going to be excited. You're going to dial 911, please send an ambulance. Click. Where do they send the ambulance? Okay? Nowadays, most of your 911 centers, when you call in, it'll flash your address right up on the screen. But there again, with cell phones, it's a different story again, okay? So it's very important when you call 911, you don't hang up first. You stay on that line until that operator tells you it's okay to hang up, and they get as much information as you can give them. And like I say, it's important that you give them as much information as you can about the scene, okay? About the scene, about the victim. Are they going to have a electrical service arrive if they're downed wires? They need police, they need traffic control, things like this. So the scene is very important. And we're going to have to worry about those problems in the square dance hall, okay? But the scene should be pretty safe in the square dance hall, I would think. But the first time I've ever witnessed an incident was back in the late 60s. I think it was about 67, 68 in La Crosse, Wisconsin. And we had gone to a dance, and there must have been 30, 40 squares out on the floor, and we had a gentleman that dropped. And they did everything right. They didn't have the signal all together yet then, but the caller saw what happened, stopped the music, asked everyone to leave the hall. They could go out into the lobby. And fortunately, they had 3 doctors on the scene. And all 3 doctors started working on the gentleman. I heard later that he passed away. But CPR is something. It's not that difficult to learn. It's pretty easy to do. Like I say, I'm just going to basically demonstrate it for you this morning, show you what to do, some of the things not to do, and give you a little idea of what it looks like, and then we'll let you come up and do some hands-on yourself if you'd like to. Another thing we're going to talk about, choking. Okay? If you're choking, you know there's an international sign for choking. Anybody know what it is? Right, hands at the throat. Okay? In fact, we just ran through this last summer. We were visiting some friends out in Indiana, and Bev had the good idea of bringing some buffalo steaks. They were pretty good. They were pretty good. But our friend was eating his steak, and all of a sudden he got this strange look, and he started pointing at his throat. He didn't know the international sign, but he started pointing at his throat. And Bev says, "Dave, he's choking." Well, I got up out of the chair, and I got around behind him to give him the Heimlich maneuver, sitting right in the chair. Just as I got behind him, he coughed it up. Has anybody ever witnessed anybody choking? All right? Gee, there again, about half of you. Every class I've taught, I always ask this question: have you ever witnessed anybody choking, and have you used the Heimlich maneuver? And just about every class, there's been somebody in there that has, and they all say the same thing. That food shot out of his mouth and just about hit the far wall. I've never had anybody tell me they've used the maneuver and it has not worked. Now, that's not saying that it's not ever worked, but every class that I've taught in the past 17 years, and I ask that question, and somebody says, yes, they have, and it's worked, tells me that it's a pretty successful rate. Okay? Yes, Jerry?
You'd think he would know. Your name and your state, please.
Hi, Jerry Reed, Florida. Dave, is that something that the Heimlich maneuver, certainly the choking symbol, I'm thinking of publishing that in direction, but the instructions for the Heimlich maneuver, is that something that we should publish, or is there some kind of a liability if we publish and people do it incorrectly? Should they have training in how to do it, I guess is the question.
Yes, you should have training.
We shouldn't then publish without to get the training. How about publishing the choking symbol? Because I didn't know it.
Yeah, sure. The choking signal would be no problem. Sure. Okay, but we're going to show you the Heimlich maneuver. Okay, it's very simple. It's a very simple maneuver, and in fact, we'll even let you practice a little bit if you'd like. But when someone is choking, of course, you can ask them if they can speak or if you can help them, and see if you can get a response. Okay, if they have a good air exchange, okay, or if they're coughing forcefully, you just want to let them go. Okay, let them cough it up themselves. Okay, but if it gets to the point where it's weak and ineffective, then you're going to need to intervene. Okay. And to do the Heimlich maneuver, it's very simple. You just take the knuckle of your hand, find the belly button, place it right above the belly button, put the other hand on top, and start giving the upward thrust. And you would keep doing that until either they cough it up or they pass out. Okay? If you'd like to try that, why don't you stand up? And if you have somebody next to you that would like to do it. Okay. Find the belly button. Okay. And then don't actually give the real serious thrust, okay? But then you would just start squeezing.
Be sure you get sort of under the ribs, because you're pushing the diaphragm and pushing the lungs up.
Two questions. The first one, Roy Gotta from New Jersey. What do you do if the size differential makes it impossible for you to wrap your arms around the victim?
Have the victim lay down, and you can do it while he's on the ground. Okay? And what you do is use the heel of your hand, there again, the same place, right above the belly button, and then just use thrust up towards the head. Okay?
The other thing was I guess, just going to ask permission. We're putting together some new material for pamphlets we distribute at our caller schools, and I wanted to include some of this information, and I just making sure after listening to the tape from this, can we include this, and are there, say, 800 numbers for the Red Cross and the Heart Association where local people can then find out how to contact their local people? And can we get that information also?
Sure. I'm sure any phone book would have the address and phone numbers for the Red Cross in their areas. Getting back to the choking, Roy mentioned if somebody's really obese, you can't get your arms around them. Okay, you can get them to lay down. What about a woman who's pregnant? What are you going to do there? Up on the chest. Yep, just like you're doing the CPR. Okay, that's the best thing you can do for them. What about yourself? Lean over the back of a chair. Okay, does help. If you're ever sitting at a dinner table, someone starts choking, what are they probably going to do? They're probably going to get up and leave the table and go where? Go to the bathroom, right? Because they want to embarrass themselves. What are you going to do? You're going to follow them, right? Because if you don't, and they don't get it up, they're going to be laying on the floor, right? So, just a few pointers. So, like I say, it's a very, very simple to do. Okay, Roy again.
We're going to have him sit closer to the front. Wait, Vice Chairman.
One thing on that following, something that was brought home to us, if you follow someone to the bathroom, make sure that the door does not get closed behind them. When actually Betsy's father died, it was in the bathroom. They couldn't get in because when he collapsed or fell, they couldn't get the door open because he was
He fell in front of the door.
Yeah.
Huh? That's a good point. It's a good point. See, I learn something every time I teach a class. I always do. There's always somebody that asks a question I've never heard before. And 17 years of teaching, I thought I've heard every question, but that was a new one right there. Okay. Let's get on to... we do have somebody that collapses at a dance. What are we going to do? Okay, we already did the signal. The callers stopped the music, cleared the floor. What are we going to do now? Okay, are we breathing? They have what they call ABCs. Airway, breathing, circulation. Okay? The first thing you're going to do with somebody that collapses, you're going to find out, are they breathing? Okay, and how do you find out if they're breathing? Okay. It's called opening the airway. Now I'm going to need you up here.
Just for the tape, he's not doing this to me, he's doing it to a dummy. Well, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Her name is Chris, and she didn't want to stay in our room, so she's been in the trunk, and she's having a fit that she had to stay there, but go ahead.
Okay. The first thing you're going to do, you're going to tap and shout and make sure they didn't just faint or just became a little weak-kneed. Okay? So you're going to tap and shout and see if you get any response. Okay? No response, you open the airway. And it's very simple. You just put 2 fingers under the chin, the other one on the forehead. And what you're doing is pulling the tongue away from the back of the throat. Okay? And then you're going to have to look, listen, and feel to see if they're breathing.
Put your ear to their mouth or their nose so you can hear them.
Okay, I put my ear to the mouth so you can hear any exchange. I was watching the chest to see if it was rising and falling. Okay. Take about 5 seconds to do that. If you need to count 1,000, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5. Okay? So you're just checking to see if they're breathing. Okay? Once you realize they're not breathing, then you're going to have to give them some breath. I've already seen cases where just by opening the airway, they start breathing. We've responded to automobile accidents and things like that, and all we do as soon as we open the airway, they're breathing. Very simple. 2 fingers on the chin, the other one on the forehead, okay? If they're breathing fine, all you have to do is maintain that head tilt and make sure they're still breathing, okay? If they're not breathing, then you're going to have to give 2 breaths. What I'm going to do is I'll pinch the nose and give 2 breaths. After the 2 breaths, then you need to find out, we did the airway, we did the breathing, we have to do the C, which is circulation. We're going to see if they have a heartbeat. We just put 2 fingers on the Adam's apple, slide down into the groove of the neck. And you can do that on yourself. Find your Adam's apple, slide down to the groove of your neck, you should be able to feel your carotid pulse. Sometimes you have to move around a little bit to find it, but it's there. You're going to take about 10 seconds to feel the pulse, okay? We take a little longer to feel the pulse because we need to find out, is it a regular beat? Is it an irregular beat? Is it a strong beat? Is it a kind of a weakened beat? Is it jumping around? I mean, is it beating once, waits a while, and beats again, and then maybe 2 beats, and then waits a while? So you need to determine a few more factors. So that's why you're going to take a little longer on the pulse, okay? Now, we have no breathing and no pulse. Hopefully the caller has already taken it upon himself to get the ambulance coming, okay? We have to start CPR. What you do when you go down is you follow the ribs up till you get on the solid breastbone. If you feel right in here, there's a little bony kind of a bone that gives, called the xiphoid process. You don't want to press on that. You want to get up on the solid breastbone, okay? What you do is you leave your 2 fingers on the solid breastbone, you put your hand next to your 2 fingers, you're going to give 15 compressions. Put my hand on there, and as you notice, as I give the compressions, my arms are going to stay straight, and I'm pressing down with my upper weight, my shoulders, okay? So I'm not bending my arms, I'm keeping them straight. 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And what we're going to do is 4 cycles of that. We're going to do 15, 2 breaths, 15, 2 breaths, 15, 2 breaths, 15, 2 breaths. After the end of the 4 cycles, we're going to feel for a pulse again. After the minute, they want you to recheck the pulse to see if your breathing and compressions may have got him going again, okay? After the first minute, then they say check every few minutes afterwards. But chances are, if you're going to get him going, your chances are good after that first minute. There again, we've only got 4 to 6 minutes. Okay, so it's important that we do the ABCs right away, find out what his status is. If he's not breathing and no pulse, give the 2 breaths and go right into the 15 and 2. So I'm going to run through 1 cycle here, and when I start, why don't you time me and see how long it takes me to get through 4 cycles. I'll go through the whole sequence for you. You can start timing me when I start with the 2 breaths, okay? Annie, are you all right? No response. Open the airway, tilt the head back, check for breathing. Not breathing, pinch the nose, give 2 breaths. Two fingers on the Adam's apple, slide down the groove of the neck, feel for the pulse. There again, I'm going to take about 10 seconds. Determine no pulse, make sure an ambulance has been called, and then find my landmark, find the ribs, go up on the solid breastbone, leave my 2 fingers there, and start with the compressions. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And then you check for the pulse again after 4 cycles. Hopefully you have one. If not, then you discontinue. How long did it take? Okay. But that's the technique. Like I say, this isn't really meant to certify you in CPR or anything. We're just telling you some of the basics to the program. I've got some handouts up here. One is on rescue breathing. Another one is on CPR. Another one is on the Heimlich maneuver. If you care to take one of those, fine. And are there any other questions out there?
Sandy Weiss, Detroit, Michigan. Would you please tell us and explain to us what we would do if we had a youth group that we were working with?
What would the ages be?
9, 10, 11.
9, 10, and 11. There again, it's going to depend on the size of the victim, okay? But they have what they call as a child CPR, where you can use the one hand rather than the real forceful, and of course you wouldn't blow as hard. But I didn't really plan on instructing on the child.
Kathy Helt, Cincinnati, Ohio. What are the possibilities of being sued if a person does not recover if you touch them?
I believe all the states in the United States have what they call the Good Samaritan Clause, okay? That as long as you don't try to do anything that you're not trained to do, okay? This has been tested in courts. As long as you're trying to help that victim, they consider that Good Samaritan Clause, and it helps prevent the lawsuits.
And if you're helping somebody and somebody comes along and says, I'm certified in CPR and I know I'm an EMT, get out of the way and let them finish. You tell them what you know up to that point. No pulse, no breathing. You've done this, you've done that, and let them take over.
Another one behind you.
Roy Gott again. One of the things to help avoid that is, as the caller, whatever, when the incident occurs, is right away ask if there's anybody trained in the hall. The 2 times we've had the incidents where, and I didn't think to ask, I just immediately started to get ready to help the victim, but both times, at least fortunately for me, I didn't need to. There was a doctor that showed up the one time, and the other time there was a police officer. So I just backed off, but I didn't think to ask if there was anybody there.
That's a good point. Nowadays I know a lot of people do know CPR. A lot of them do their jobs. I know where I work, we require all our supervision to have it. We have our own hazardous material team, where we have 15 first responders on there that are trained in CPR, first aid. We have some people that are in volunteer fire departments that are trained. We load barges. The Coast Guard says if you load hazardous materials on the barges, your barge operators, or the people doing the loading, have to have CPR. So more and more people are receiving that training today, and it's a good class. I was surprised to hear Bev say it was $60, because back in Dubuque I think it's $25, and that includes the first aid and the CPR.
And there may be such a thing as your company would pay for it if you ask them.
Yes. A lot of companies are looking for that. Another big item that's coming out nowadays, the AEDs, automatic external defibrillators, because they have found out that the earlier you can defibrillate someone who's in a full arrest, the better their chances are. So I know a lot of your big sporting events and things like that where there are large crowds of people, they have AEDs on site. I don't know if this hotel does or not. I was going to ask.
Because of a child dying at an athletic event at a high school, the parents started an AED fund in his memory, and every school in our district now has AEDs on site, and the state is beginning to help pay. The state doesn't pay for very much in Pennsylvania, but they are helping on that. So it is the coming thing. That was Freddie Kaltenfeller of Pennsylvania.
Yes, they are the coming thing. Like I say, we have one out at work. I'm trained to use one. They're very simple to use. It's just a matter of 2 patches. You put one here, so one on the side and one up on the chest. Plug the patches into the AED. You push a button, it analyzes the patient. It tells you whether a shock is advised or not. If it does say shock advised, and then you can hear it wind up as it generates the power. And it'll say stand clear, shock now. You have to make sure nobody's touching the patient, because if they are touching the patient at the time you give the shock, they're going to get the shock also. So it's very important that they have everybody stand clear. You push the button, gives the shock right through the cables going to the patches, and then it will automatically analyze again. So it works really slick. It's real easy to use, and you're going to be seeing more and more of these. Bev, behind you.
For the record, what is the approximate cost of one of those?
The one we purchased, I believe, was $5,000. But I believe the price is coming down a lot. There's different brands, and I'm not sure, but I would say probably right now the average price is somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000.
Yeah, she just said it's $3,600.
So, like I say, it all depends on what brand, and the prices are coming down on them. So, very easy to use. Once again, I want to repeat, we're not really going to certify you in CPR today. We just wanted to introduce you, show you what the technique was, talk about some incidents, some medical emergencies that you may run into on the square dance floor. And if you'd like to come up and try your hand at doing some of this, feel free. But other than that, I really don't have anything else unless anybody else does.
Yes, I'd like to just tell you all a true story. My name is Bob Elgin. I'm from Pennsylvania. And about a year and a half ago, a member of our federation, Dance Federation, dancing with another club, Otto, retired on Monday. On Wednesday, he was at a dance, and he went down at the dance. And he was full-bearded. And there was some reluctance, and I think they will attest to it. Sometimes there is reluctance to people getting involved, even though they do know CPR, maybe uncertified, and it isn't always a pleasant operation, is it, Dave?
No, it's not.
You can expect just about anything, and a lot of people are reluctant to go mouth to mouth. So what Dot and I did, we went to our federation and discussed the whole matter. We have 27 clubs, and we got our federation to sponsor and give each club a okay, you take that. I'm sure you're familiar with that. But it's a little mask that is contained that it just folds out. There's a mouthpiece on it, a filter, and everything. So there is no regurgitation or anything that happens that comes in contact with you. So we got them to buy and give each club a mask, and all the callers, there are 18 callers. So in our whole federation, wherever you dance, there is equipment. I mean, it's not very much, but it does.
At least it's something.
It does remove the reluctance to go mouth to mouth, because a lot of times, man to man, it's sort of more reluctance than a woman to woman. But it is a factor, and with time being of the essence, you need to get every advantage you can. And it has a replacement filter on it, so it's once used again, it can be used again, and put a new filter on it. Thank you.
Very good idea. In fact, I was going to bring mine along to show you, so I'm glad you brought this. But this is a one-way valve, so there's no way that you can suck anything back into your mouth. All you can do is blow through this, and and it'll only go on one way, so it's very easy to use because they're different sizes. So you can only put that on one way. Yes, right there on the back, it shows you how to use it. And you would just put it over the nose and mouth.
We always have one in our glove compartment and in our motorhome too, so that wherever we are, if anything happens at a campground or anything, we are basically prepared.
I think they run about $25, $30.
We had a bunch of them for $11. We got a lot of them for $11 each.
You bought quantity.
Buying a quantity.
Yeah.
In the front of this it says Leirdal, L-A-E-R-D-A-L pocket mask, made in Norway.
Question was, where do you buy it?
Medical supply stores usually. Yeah.
Roy Gott again. Just a question for you. You know, I'm sure you're familiar with that. Is either one regular mouth to mouth or using the mask? Is either one more effective than the other, or are they both?
I'd say they're both pretty effective. Yeah, they're both pretty effective. What he pointed out is people are reluctant to get involved today, and what are a lot of the biggest reasons
is all the bloodborne illnesses that you can get from contact today. You have AIDS and you have hepatitis. All you have to do is get some bodily fluid inside of you. You have a cut on your hand, get it in your eyes, in your mouth, and you can contact those diseases. And that's the reason why a lot of people hesitate to get involved today. Another reason is the legal aspects that we talked about before. You know, I'm not going to get involved with that. I can get sued. But there again, if it's a loved one or a good friend, you're going to get involved without even thinking about it. Now, if it's somebody walking down the street and a perfect stranger and collapses, yeah, then you might question it. In fact, Bev got involved with an incident, about 10 years ago, wasn't
at least. We were at a three-way stop. My daughter, she'd missed the bus, so here we go. And the car, I could see it come through the intersection, and he was coming toward us, and he kept veering very slowly toward the curb. And I kept saying, "Guy, let the cup of coffee go," because he was leaned over like he was reaching for a cup of coffee that may have spilled in the turn. And he very gently bumped the car ahead of him. I mean, the car didn't move that much. It was just barely touched it. And I said, "Oh my gosh, he's had a heart attack," because he was just kind of slumped down. He never came up out of his seat. So I told my daughter, "Stay in the van. Anybody calls, talks to you, tell them what's happening." I went over there, and he had a pipe that he just lit or whatever. I got that out of there because I was afraid to put the carpet on fire. Unhooked him, got him out on the ground, and thank you God, the emergency room nurse, the head nurse of the emergency room at the nearest hospital came and helped me. But he was already dead when we got to him. It was such a massive heart attack. But at least we tried. We did try. She did. She said, "I'll do mouth-to-mouth. You do compressions." Fine with me. At that time, it was a two-man operation. Now they've gone to one-person CPR.
But I highly recommend that you take a course. Like I say, contact the American Heart Association or the Red Cross in your area, and it's about 4 hours well spent. It really is.
There are other variations of the masks. I would be concerned that would not seal on a person with a beard because it might leak past it. Mouth to mouth, you would definitely have a closed contact. But there's various kinds, and they always will have some kind of a filter that nothing can come back up. And be aware that some people will throw up. I can't think of another medical term. Regurgitate and have it, vomit come right out. So don't be alarmed, but get them up on their side so they don't inhale it back and choke on it, and then go right back at it. Question?
Wendy Valcox from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. If you are reluctant to do most-to-most and you don't have any facility to do it, should you still try the rest of the CPR, the compressions? Is that better than doing nothing?
Well, if you're not getting air to them, the CPR isn't going. The compressions aren't really going to do that much.
So you should just leave it. I know some people just will not do that.
You know, something you can do if you have a handkerchief or a clean piece of cloth will work. You put that over their mouth, and that way you would it would help avoid contact with them.
As long as there's some kind of barrier.
Yeah. But if you're not getting the air into them, chances are pretty slim.
Lorraine Varney, Zephyr Hills, Florida. I know when we had a dancer go down at a dance, George was not calling, but another caller was calling at the time, and, he just stopped the music and everybody cleared the floor. But there happened to be somebody there that had just had the CPR course, and so they went right to work on this person, and by the time that the medical team got there, he was breathing and talking, and probably saved the guy's life.
That doesn't happen too often. We were going to mention some medical emergency stories. As he said, he was on the ambulance of the fire department volunteers. They called in the middle of the night to the nursing home, the county nursing home. There's a guy's not breathing, whatever, can you come? So they rush out, quickly dress as they're going out the door, get in the ambulance, go right on out there, and go to the nurse's desk. Where's he at? What room? Oh, right down there. So they go down there. They go in there, the light's off. Must be the wrong room. There's nobody there. Go back up to the desk. Oh, no, he's in there. He's in the bathroom. They got in there, turn on the light in the bathroom. He's laying there already dead. Nobody with him. Nobody tried anything. So
we had a talk with the nursing home after that.
No, out by us.
No, we had a good talk with them afterwards, and they took care of the problem.
Yeah, if he's already dead, in this case, they still have to start CPR if they're there, and all the way into the hospital. They can't stop. They can't declare him dead. They just have to keep on going. Poor guy, I felt bad for him that nobody was even with him when he died.
Roy Gada, again. A couple things you just said, and I trying to, because it's been a long time since I took the CPR course. I'm not current. But the two things that you just said, one, that I remember taking it and they recommended that if there were two people there, you do the two-person CPR. And I think you just said now they prefer one person?
Oh, you can still do the two-man. I just didn't demonstrate the two-man today, but the American Heart Association does teach the two-man. The Red Cross does not right now.
And I also recall something about where if you didn't, the incident you just related, where if you didn't see the person go down, if you just come across someone, that CPR is basically not going to do anything because if you don't catch it immediately, it's just not going to work.
Well, if you know how long they've been laying there, but if you just came across them, you don't know they may have dropped right before you rounded the corner. You know, so that's why you would want to do the responsive check and see if you can get a response out of them, and open the airway and check for breathing. And if no breathing, then there again, it's your call whether to start the CPR.
Because of them being a volunteer fire department and having the expertise to do this, they had to do it. As a general public person, you would not have to do it if you knew how long they were down, especially if you knew they'd been laying there for 10 minutes before anybody else showed up.
Bob Elgin again. I just wanted to ask Dave, have you ever been exposed to heart thumping?
To heart slumping? Thumping. Oh, the precordial thump on the chest? Yes. We used to teach it that way, and then they dropped that about 5 or 6 years ago. I guess they kind of figured that it was more or less a waste of time, and you'd be better off getting right into the CPR.
I had an occasion, had my mother to her cardiologist, and while we were waiting, there was a couple, I guess they were around the 70s, came out, and the gentleman asked his wife to go ahead and make his 6-month appointment. He was going to go out to the van. So he went out, and she made the appointment. She went out, and she came running back in and said, "I need help." He had just seen his cardiologist, and he was getting into the van, and he had a heart attack. So I ran out, and I started working on him right away, and it was probably 3 minutes before the doctor come out, and he started, and he didn't figure he was getting it, so he started the heart thumping, and I'll tell you, he beat the hell out of that guy. And he said, what to do, too, is if you can find their name, find what the name is, shout their name, that many times there is a recognition that they can hear, and they know that they're getting help. So it does help if it's Fred, just holler as loud as you can. Fred, come on, let's go, Fred, you know. And we brought him around and got him in the ambulance, and today he's still alive, so it worked. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it isn't recommended because many times you can do more damage than good with anything, of course. You do need education, and to just arbitrarily do the wrong thing, I mean, you're just compounding things. Thank you.
It's kind of like I watched him call for 30-some years. I can't do that. I don't have the training, and I wouldn't think of doing it. But if I had been exposed to it in an emergency, the Indianapolis National Square Dance Convention, we were in the Union Station. I'm speaking in terms of him being the caller and me not. And there was a group there and said, "Oh, we missed the dance. We wanted to square dance." I said, "I can do 3 calls, and you'll get back to home, and you can say you danced there." So, you know, that much I knew, but I wasn't going to get him into the full thing. This is about the same thing. You can see it done, but training would be better.
Yeah, there again, we stress that you do actually take a Red Cross or Heart Association course. You know, it really benefits you. So if there's no more questions, like I say, if you'd like to come up and try this, we've got meters here that tells you whether you're getting the breath in and the compressions, and I can give you a few pointers if you'd just like to get the feel of it. Other than that, that's all we have.
And for the tape people, please go to your American Red Cross or call them or American Heart Association and look into this. And as this gentleman said here, look into the cost of having those masks at your dance. If nothing else, have it in your equipment box for the club. And if you have callers that you're especially fond of, maybe you want to pay their way to go through a CPR course and then give them the mask too. I can't think of anything else that the people on the tape, because they're not going to be able to see this anyway. So any more questions that we can put on tape? All right, then thanks to Dave and thanks for you being here.